About 4 years ago, I went to Carmen on the Day of the Dead. That day, they asked me to dance, which was normal, but after that, things got weird. Throughout the day, when I got home, he started sending me a lot of messages. Honestly, I didn't like him because he was the only guy who believed he was a catch, partly because he owned a business, thanks to that. So, he started hitting on me. At that time, I had a best friend who noticed that he was flirting with me, and I told her that I wasn't interested in this guy. But no matter how much I was not interested, he kept following me around. He would join us every break, and we didn't know how to get rid of him. Then, my friend got an idea to ask him for favors, like going to the cafeteria and buying us stuff with his money because we thought that would make him leave us alone. But on the contrary, he went and bought everything we asked for. This went on for about 3 weeks, and my friend forced me to date him as a form of gratitude. Dude, what could I do after all that to see how it would go with him and her? I started dating this guy, but honestly, I didn't even want to kiss him. After about 2 weeks, we were hanging out, and he stole a kiss from me, and my friend took a photo right at that moment. You can see the look of disgust on my face in the photo. Later that afternoon, the guy decided to post that photo online. Then, a while later, a girl shared a screenshot of a conversation with him where they were talking about being together forever. And I was like, seriously? That gave me the perfect excuse to break up with him. A wonderfully messy move indeed. He then sent me a message complaining, and I apologized because, why not? But I also told him I didn't know he had a girlfriend because I really didn't. He responded very aggressively, very pushy, and very rudely. So I just stopped responding because why bother with that drama? After all the fuss about his other girlfriend causing drama, he then came to bring me roses, begging me not to break up with him and gave me 1,000 explanations, which I tried to understand, but obviously, I had enough. The worst part is that we had to share a classroom for the rest of high school, but the funny thing is that these two are still together after who knows how many times he's cheated. My ex ended up with a mess on his hands, choosing to stay with him. I moved away, but 2 years later I came back, and he was the first to find out I had returned and started reaching out to me as if nothing had happened. By that time, I had tried something with him in the past, but it hadn't worked out because he had a girlfriend, which I found out about much later from other people. He started flirting with me again, and I confronted him because I honestly didn't want to continue having feelings for him. We were talking 24/7, calling all the time, and we hung out every day. He would come to see me at my house. My whole family knew him and I always spoke highly of him. He then asked me to be his girlfriend, but just before that, his friends told me he still had a girlfriend. When I confronted him, he admitted it but said they were not doing well, claiming he would leave her for me and who knows what other lies. A week after he asked me to be his girlfriend, he went on a trip. The first day everything was fine. But on the second day, he only replied in the afternoon and seemed distant. I sensed something was wrong, so I asked his friends what was going on since he was traveling with them. They told me that despite spending all night talking to me the previous day, he had actually spent the whole night talking to his ex. I confronted him again, and he said we should start being just friends, which was the best. I was devastated and didn't insist further. When he returned from his trip, he wanted to visit me at my house, but I didn't want to see him. How dare he come to my house after all that? Finally, he came over very angrily, and I asked him politely what he wanted. I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years now. We've been together since high school. Also, I had a best friend who was. My best friend was also my boyfriend's best friend. When I started liking my boyfriend, he liked her too. But nothing ever happened between them because she never liked him back, she just saw him as her best friend. So, when he started liking me and asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes, but we had to keep it a secret because my parents didn't allow me to have a boyfriend. We lasted a month, and then we broke up. After that, my best friend started hitting on him, knowing he was my ex, which really upset me. But my ex wasn't interested in her because he liked me. However, our situation was complicated because we couldn't really do anything about it. Time passed, and we got back together, and she was super clingy with my boyfriend. She would send him messages all the time, photos, videos, voice messages, and I thought, they're just best friends. It must be normal. But deep down, I never really listened to my mom, who warned me because I thought she was just being overprotective. But moms are never wrong, honestly. So, I got back with my boyfriend secretly again, and our best friend seemed to be meddling too much, stirring trouble between us by saying things he allegedly told her and vice versa, which were all lies. But I trusted my boyfriend too much to care about what she said. We continued like this until one day, I found a message on my boyfriend's phone from another girl saying she had always liked him more than I did, and he had decided not to pursue her because he knew it wouldn't work out. Seeing that message really angered me, so I started seeing other people because of it, and eventually, we broke up. We didn't hear from each other for 6 months. I went to a different high school than all my friends, which was quite an adjustment. After one of my best friends kept trying to set us up, my boyfriend and I eventually got back together, and this time it wasn't a secret. Everything was out in the open because my parents finally allowed me to have a boyfriend. I was still talking to my best friend and honestly trying to forget everything that had happened because he apologized, and it seemed like he was more attracted to her but still in love with me, so I forgave him. Then, as time went by, I still referred to him as a friend, but they continued to talk. One day, my boyfriend suggested that I might be a lesbian because our best friend had mentioned it, which was bizarre, but I trusted him completely at that time, thinking it was just an absurd idea. So, I didn't mind them talking and seeing each other because I thought everything was fine. He wasn't interested in my boyfriend anymore, and we continued as if nothing had happened. However, I later found messages on my boyfriend's phone from my best friend. She was sending him framed photos of other girls and messages saying that I didn't like this girl and that she had suggested he should follow her. Soon, a bunch of girls started following my boyfriend, and he followed them back, which honestly made me feel terrible about my best friend because not only was it about introducing him to other girls, but it felt like a betrayal. I also felt awful about my boyfriend because, obviously, if he was sensible, he would have stopped this. But I couldn't say anything because he didn't know I had his passwords and because whoever seeks finds, which is why you shouldn't seek. After some time, I checked his conversations again, and in one of them, this girl confessed she had always liked him and was in love with him. So, my boyfriend stopped talking to her properly because by then, we had been clear about our boundaries because of her. My best friend started speaking really badly about me. She invented so many rumors, claiming that I was hitting on her boyfriends and even begging them, according to her. But the worst part is that she told all this to my boyfriend while being super nice to me as if nothing was wrong, and I had no idea this was happening. When I found out, I decided to confront her to see if she had the guts to say it to my face, which I doubted. I asked her why she was spreading these lies about me, pointing out that we both knew I had never spoken more than necessary with those guys. It was all lies from her. I was really upset because I had evidence of the truth. So I distanced myself from her and also made my boyfriend distance himself from her. It was her or me, and my friends from school also distanced themselves. Now, nobody talks to her. She has lost everyone and honestly, I think she deserves it. I shared the story on Instagram and got a lot of support applause. It turns out that I know this girl named Mia, and we became super close, to the point where we were practically inseparable. One day, a guy started talking to me because he liked her, and he asked me to dress up to help him impress her. However, the problem was that my friend wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend. So, being a good friend, I often invited them to my house so they could see each other. Because this guy came over so much for my friend, he ended up becoming my best friend too. His name is Carlitos. One day, Carlitos, who was drunk, sent me messages confessing that he actually liked me, but it was complicated because he was with another friend the next day. He came over to my house and told me this in person, and we ended up kissing. It was my first kiss. In fact, she never found out about it. But for some reason, she and I drifted apart. We still get along, but we're not best friends anymore. just friends. Meanwhile, Carlitos and I are dating. Mira finished, and Mia began dating Carlitos' brother. I always liked his brother, but he never paid attention to me. Then they start seeing each other. But one day, Gabriel, Carlitos' brother, starts talking to me. I was super excited. Words of fate, he came to my house. And we ended up kissing too because he told me he wasn't talking to Mia anymore and that it was over between them. So we kissed, but after 2 weeks, I found out that they had been dating for 5 months. They never broke up. Poor me, because I had no idea what was going to happen next. Meanwhile, Mia started dating a guy named Santiago. I didn't know this guy back then. I was dating another guy named Antonio. One day, my best friend tells me, "Hey, let's introduce our boyfriends," because she also hasn't met my boyfriend. So we decide to go on a double date. And finally, I meet my best friend's boyfriend. And honestly, I liked him, but he was the new, healthy best friend. And I also had a healthy boyfriend. So I thought, I don't know what you're thinking, and let it pass. Time passes, and my best friend and her boyfriend break up. As a good friend, I was there to support her. Just 2 days later, Santiago started hitting on me heavily. He was too much. He insisted, he begged, and I had always liked him from the moment I met him. So, foolishly, I ended things with Antonio and secretly started dating Santiago. He asked me to be his girlfriend after we started seeing each other because he cheated on me 3 times. Then, suddenly, someone began sending photos, and when I opened them, I realized they were nothing more than screenshots of conversations with the girls he cheated on me with. I cried a lot but still forgave him. I know. Don't tell me. I know it was a mistake. Then, things were okay for about 2 weeks at most, and in short, we got back together about 10 times. But I was fed up. It was always the same. He cheated. I forgave him. We broke up. We got back together. So tedious. Then, along came George, and I started liking him while I was still with Santiago. I broke up with Santiago and started going out with Joshua. We ended up being boyfriend and girlfriend. But then he told me that Santiago was one of his best friends. Santiago found out about our relationship, got mad obviously, and blocked us both on everything. I continued with Joshua for the past year. I met a guy at the academy we were attending. He started talking to me, but it was weird because we never spoke in person. We had never talked before, and it seemed odd, but I went along with it. Then he disappeared for a month, didn't come to the academy, didn't message me, and then out of nowhere, he came back and started talking to me again, and he asked me out. We started talking more, and I started to like him. Everything was super nice, but there were some weird things that I didn't pay attention to because when you're in love, you're blind. Then I entered university and he didn't because he didn't pass. We were still dating, and we had been together for 3 months when he suddenly broke up with me because he supposedly was going to the USA for a bit, but that was a lie. He told me his sister and mother were in the USA and that they owned a company and were very wealthy, but he always told me many lies about his life, and I believed him because I was very in love. One day, I told my whole family about this guy's lies, especially my brother who found it very strange and told me to be very careful with him. Time passed, and he supposedly had an ex who, according to him, he no longer spoke to. Then one day, I got a message from someone I didn't know, which was super weird, telling me that, "Hey, your boyfriend is cheating on you." When we broke up 3 days later, he apologized and we got back together. So we were back to being a couple, but I ignored this message because I thought it was just someone trying to meddle after blocking that profile. I felt okay, but I still wanted to tell my boyfriend about it. When I told him, he said he thought it was his ex trying to mess with our relationship. He said he would talk to her, which made me feel very uneasy because why would he want to talk to his ex? Time passed, and his ex contacted me, telling me things about her relationship with my boyfriend. She said she still loved him and that they were still talking and many more things, which broke my heart because I trusted him a lot. That day, I confronted him, hoping he would tell me the truth, but as expected, he just made excuses. I ended the relationship that day, but then doubted my decision because he seemed sincere. The next day, he came to my house with roses and asked for forgiveness, asking if we could talk. So, we talked, and I ended up forgiving him, and we got back together. Our relationship was going well for a month until my brother invited me to dinner, which I found strange, but I went anyway. During dinner, he asked why I trusted him, and honestly, I didn't know what to answer other than because I was in love with him. A few days before, my boyfriend and I had argued, and that day he told me that his mom was in a hospital due to a severe accident and was about to die. So, I forgot the argument and asked him which hospital she was at so I could visit her and be with him, but he wouldn't tell me. The next day, he acted as if everything was normal, which I thought was odd because he should have been sad. He then told me they were going to take his mom to the USA for treatment. I told my family about this, and they were skeptical, wondering whether it was true or not. When I went to dinner with my brother, he told me that my boyfriend's mom was actually fine and nothing had happened to her at all. In fact, his mom is not a businesswoman but a teacher. They don't have all the money he claimed they had. And his sister works for the government and they live in a province that is nowhere near the USA. Literally everything was a lie that I completely fell for. And obviously, I couldn't believe it because it was a huge shock to me. So, we broke up, but emotions don't just disappear overnight. A few weeks passed and I hadn't seen him because my family rightly forbade me from seeing him. However, I secretly got back together with him, which was a massive mistake in my life because I started believing everything he said again. When we got back together, it was rainy and everything became virtual due to the pandemic, but he started to be really bad and mean to me, being super aggressive. We would argue about literally everything, so I was always very distrustful about everything. I kept hearing from his ex that they were still talking. After many months of a toxic relationship, I decided to talk to his ex to find out the truth, and I discovered that all this time they had been seeing each other without deceit. She told me that he said he and I had broken up, that we were no longer together, along with many other things that gradually destroyed me because I had given so much to someone who was not worth it, who only made me feel bad, who only hurt me, who only damaged me. I tried to leave our relationship, but he was a blackmailer and a manipulator, and he told me that if I left him, he would kill himself. Hearing that, especially when I learned that he had cheated on me, I finally told him to deal with his psychological issues himself. I decided to distance myself from everything completely. I cut him off, blocked him everywhere, and my dad got involved to ensure he would not bother me again. And now, I am really happy that they are no longer in my life. If you want to share your story, send me a message on Instagram at this username and follow me.